broadcasting by way of Gallifrey. Stand by for podcasts. This is Voices from the Vortex.
Voices from the Vortex review, Season 8, Episode 1, Deep Breath. Yeah. Series 8.
Everybody, take a deep breath.
What's up?
This is going to be a long one.
Capaldi, and Clara, and Strax. He's there.
And Bastra, too. Bastra. And hello.
Don't forget Jenny. Oh, yeah.
Hey, guys, this is Matt, one of the two dudes from Gallifrey.
Yes, and I am not Matt.
That is right. He is the not Matt.
I'm the not Matt one.
He's the one that asks the questions.
Yes, I am the Taylor one.
The Taylor one. Maybe it's Taylor. I don't know. It's
a lottery. Taylor. Oh, man.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
We are talking about Deep Breath.
Yes.
Season 8, Episode 1.
I know. Welcome to our review. As you can tell, we're already super excited about this episode.
Boy, are we ever.
We'll get to our things yet, but first I want to thank my friend Brian Wurst for composing or kind of arranging a new theme song for the podcast.
Woo!
Yeah, it's kind of a shorter version. We'll have a longer version for later, but for right now, this is what we have, and it's we love it.
It's great.
So thank you. Also, I don't know if anybody can notice. We are no longer hitching a ride in the Doctor's TARDIS anymore.
We stopped hitchhiking in the Doctor's TARDIS. You're right. Well, Taylor over here brought up a really good point a couple weeks ago to me. He says, "Hey, Matt," he says, "we should probably head on down to good old Bill Skuldak's used TARDIS Emporium and
He's got
see
some
about
great
getting
deals.
one of our own. Maybe investing in our own."
Yeah.
For Season 8.
We've got our own sounds going on in the background. This is our own machinery, and
we have our own TARDIS voice. In fact, it's quite a sexy TARDIS voice. It's kind of cool. She may appear from time to time. That'll be cool.
Yes.
And TARDIS, you there?
Hello, boys.
Excellent. There we go. Gotta love recording.
You gotta love the TARDIS.
Gotta love the TARDIS.
Yeah, so we're very excited. We got some new things going on in the podcast. I wonder what else might be new.
I'm feeling quite thin.
Days to come.
I don't know. I might need a renewal of sorts.
Yeah, maybe. We shall see.
But I will say this: after I'm done, I'm not looking in a damn mirror because I would be. It's furious. The mirror is furious.
It's furious. Oh man, this episode was so good, guys.
Oh wow.
Capaldi.
Way to be.
For real. Gosh, I don't even know where to begin. Okay, so
for those of you who haven't seen it, stop listening right now and go watch it. For those of you who have seen
it is
Deep Breath, first episode of the new season. It's all about learning who the Doctor is. They crash land out of a dinosaur's mouth back in the Paternostern Gang time, the late 1800s, and stumble upon a plot used by a half-put-together robot to steal pieces of people in order to get to the Promised Land, which blew my mind at, really? That's crazy. That's gonzo.
Yeah.
What the heck? Just that on its own.
Yes. That's good. All right, I got my little handy notebook here. I got my notes here. This episode, I'm really excited for the next episode for many reasons. But
it's a great way to start off a podcast.
But the one is this was a very transitionary episode.
It was.
The next episode, I feel like we're really going to get to see what he's like and see him in action. This episode, we kind of got that just at the end. He kind of had a couple of scenes. But for the most part, at the beginning, he's like a crazy old, delirious old man, He doesn't know who's who. Vastra's the green one and Jenny's the not green one.
But he doesn't judge. You shouldn't prejudge. He's not sure. It could be the other way around.
He gets Clara and Strax mixed up. You guys, should wear labels.
The same height.
Yeah. So, and it was the Clara show. I mean, she was fantastic in this episode.
I was really worried because everything from season 7 of Clara, it's very much so that she's just so well put together. Everything that happened with Clara, it's like she just went into it unflappable. She just dealt with it and had this poise and grace, and it was always her and Matt flirting, and it was just this sort of beautiful little love story between two really perfect people. And this is an episode which kind of takes that and says, no, we're going to break you down. You are not perfect, and neither is the Doctor, and the two of you are really going to start to show these chinks in the armor, the scratches, You're not going to survive this necessarily.
Yeah, it was a big struggle for her to get through all this.
It was. Let's see. Well, and it felt, this episode for me paralleled the Christmas Invasion. It felt very much so like Tennant's first episode, in that it relied heavily on the companions, of course. The Doctor was in it more than Tennant was, but it wasn't the Doctor yet. We didn't really see the Doctor, We didn't get to know him until near the end. Well, just like you did with Tennant. Tennant was out of it for so long, so you really didn't get to know Tennant.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point too, because they even brought back characters, right? So they bring back the Paternoster gang. Right. And in the Christmas Invasion, they bring back Harriet Jones, sort of as a comfortable place. Which I love Strax and everything, and
sure.
Paternoster gang. So that was nice at the same time. But yeah, I'm really excited for the next one because I feel like that we're going to really see him in action and see what kind of Doctor he's going to be, and how the show's going to go. This was really transitionary, but it was great.
So some of the moments going through the episode, there's a bunch we're going to talk about at the end, of course, obviously.
Yes.
But just some of the things I wanted to mention, just kind of right off the bat. Loved that he talked to the dinosaur before he really talked to Clara.
He speaks dinosaur.
He speaks. Well, he does. He speaks
as
everything,
well as baby. Yes,
But he, one of the things Moffat kept saying about this season is we're going to see a Doctor that doesn't necessarily love humans as much as he did. He doesn't put humanity above everything else. In fact, quite the opposite. This Doctor's kind of annoyed with humanity, that humanity's always there, and always in trouble. And he appreciates and respects other cultures and other aliens and other species. So right off the bat, he's got this group of aliens and a giant dinosaur, and only Clara and Jenny really are humans. And he doesn't really talk to either of them.
Yeah.
He talks to Vastra. He talks to Strax. He talks to the dinosaur. He just sort of deals with the fact that Clara's there. And I like that. I like that suddenly the Doctor is not just kowtowing to the human race. He's saying, no, you know what? Dinosaur, beautiful lady, my beautiful big lady. I'm not flirting.
Yeah. One thing I thought was interesting, and I feel like it was one of those, this is the first episode of a new season, so I'm always looking for something that's like, oh, this is going to be a thing,
yeah.
right? The little monologue he had when he was asleep.
Yeah.
And he was like, he was supposedly translating what the dinosaur was saying, but I feel like, did you also feel like maybe that was something else too?
I don't think he was translating the dinosaur at all. I think that was him.
Yeah, I think
who said he was translating dinosaur? Clara. And at that point in time, Clara had preconceived notions of who the Doctor was. Mm-hmm. So she was assuming he was translating. I think he was talking about himself, especially that last part. Nobody sees me. They can't see me. Nobody sees me. And then that comes full circle at the end where he says, you can't even see me. You look right through me.
Mm-hmm. One thing I got to say about the dinosaur, and Moffat, please, this man must be stopped. Please stop killing innocent dinosaurs. Please, you and your crew of writers, stop it.
So
first the Triceratops and dinosaurs on a spaceship, and then this.
Innocent dinosaurs die when Moffat's at the helm.
I know, for real.
Can I also say this too? Everyone gives Moffat criticism about being such a dark writer and how everybody always dies. Nobody dies. Nobody dies in Moffat stories. I defy you to pick stories where anybody dies. Okay, so dinosaurs die. But, like, look at this episode. This is a perfect example. There's such a build-up to the death of the villain and the questions of how did he die and was he pushed or did he jump, which we'll get into in a minute. But then what happened at the very end? He's alive. He's not dead.
Yeah.
Nobody
exactly.
dies. Everybody lives, Rose. Everybody lives. Everyone lived in the stupid Are You My Mummy episode. Everybody lived at the end of Blink. Everybody. I mean, literally everybody lived in Blink. Nobody died in Blink. They just went back in time and lived their lives to death. Everybody survived in Silence of the Library. Like, he just doesn't kill people. What the hell? Where are people getting this he kills people thing? I don't understand.
I don't know.
Davies killed more people.
I think he's going to start, though.
He might.
What it sounds like. I think he's going to start.
The idea of consequences is high on our minds this season.
Yes.
So. Hey, did you notice?
Go ahead.
You're talking about things. Something I wanted to bring up. Did you notice when the dinosaur was burned alive at the stake there, the warehouse behind him that they saw, the half man or whatever in the world of the pudding brains, was called Phoenix Wharf. The name of the building said Phoenix Wharf. Interesting that you have a giant dinosaur in flames. First off, the idea of something in flames was the first half of a phoenix. But secondly, that was the Doctor is reborn in this moment. He's brought anew into this world again, and he's investigating. But just the idea that the wharf itself, Phoenix Wharf, interesting to me. And I don't know. There's just something about that I thought, maybe that's going to continue. Maybe we'll see that word Phoenix elsewhere. Maybe that's a part of the season.
Yeah.
Some theories for you.
That's also a regeneration kind of thing too. You know, like the rise.
It
of
all
Phoenix
began at Phoenix Wharf.
Yeah. So as I was watching this, I kept thinking, is this really the new serious, darker Doctor Who that we're all expecting? And I'll talk about one that really bugged me. But first, the one that was actually kind of funny is when Strax threw the newspaper in the window and hit Clara. That was okay. That slapstick I was okay with. It was a little too much, but I was like, okay, that was actually really funny.
That was nothing. Okay. So yes. To answer your question, this is the serious Dark Doctor. But let me just say,
bugged me.
I'm okay with Looney Tunes action in my Dark Doctor, especially with the sound effect of the gigantic fake hammer hitting him on his brain when Vastra puts him to sleep.
That's what I was gonna say. That one I could have done without. I was like, really? A bonk noise.
I desperately wanted there to just be a wow right in the background, right then. It would have been perfect.
Or like they're running, it's like whoop, 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 whoop.
Yeah.
I mean the bonk, really. That was
that was perfect. Because it was goofy. Because we always forget this is a kids show. This really is. It's meant to be a family show. It's meant to be kind of silly, and it opens with a gigantic dinosaur in London spitting out the TARDIS, and then he calls her a big sexy lady, and you're just like, nothing about this screams seriousness. I can't take these guys seriously. The bonk puts him to sleep, and that's wah wah wah.
Bonk.
I don't know. You're right. I think this episode was littered with comedy, and I loved it. A lot of slapstick.
It really was. I'll tell you, one of my favorite lines was Strax says, "Would you like me to take your hat?" He's like, "It's hair," and he goes, "Are you sure? I think it's a hat. Would you like me to check?"
That was good.
I mean, there's so many good, funny lines.
Oh, Strax just shined. I think if there was, don't get me wrong, I loved everything about this episode. I don't think there was anything in this episode that I really hated. I didn't. As an opening episode, it is what it is. It's no 11th hour. Nothing can be the 11th
complaints,
hour.
But like, they're little complaints.
But the best part of this episode was Strax. Everything else, Strax just blew me. Every time he opened his mouth, it was just something new.
He's too much.
The bucket of water when she says she's thirsty, and I don't know if anyone caught it. She looks at it and he goes, "Oh, don't worry, I washed in it myself." Like, I've bathed in it. It's fine. What up? Just come on.
Oh, I also love when he was skating her. He goes, "Ooh, enviable spleen."
Enviable spleen. I did like the thing about average lifespan of or expected lifespan of, and she just stops him there. She doesn't want to know. She doesn't want to know what the machine says she'll live to.
I saw something about that actually was interesting. Someone said, "I think this is more important." This little part here, that little line. And their reasoning was, she says, "I know I don't want to know," and he says, "Oh, you'll do quite well," or something. And they thought that was interesting because to a Centauran, doing quite well is dying in glory on the battlefield. So maybe that's sort of a hint at maybe what's going to happen to Clara.
Well, and I like to think the reason she would have said no. Anyone else might have been interested in knowing. Donna certainly would have wanted to know. She would have said, "What are you trying to say? You know when I'm going to die? Well, tell me, Potato Boy," or something like that. And I like to think that the reason Clara said no was because she lived 1,000 lives. She died over and over again, and just the mere mention of an average lifespan or an expected lifespan. She doesn't want to know how this version dies because this is the last one.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Interesting.
So a big mystery
the next great
in this
scene
one, too, and we'll get to it's at the end, but there's this ad placed in the paper.
Okay, so when they originally did the Clara calls, and she said, "I got it from a woman in a shop." It's not River. I don't care. That's a stupid thing because they would have done River if it was. I thought it was Nightingale, Sparrow. I thought it was the girl from Blank. She owns a shop. Like, she knows the doctor. She knows how to get in a hold of the doctor. She gave the doctor information. Like, maybe she's a part of the doctor's network. For going all the way back to
another theory
Tennant.
was like Martha. She's got his phone number.
Could have been Martha. Yeah, or. I guess I've been reading a lot of people saying, well, it's this. We'll get to her in a second, but the Missy character, the gatekeeper of the Nethosphere, I don't buy it. I don't think it's that convenient. I don't think he was planning that from early on. I think it's someone we've seen before.
I think that's what they're leading us to believe, but maybe that's not the right answer. Because right after that, right after he says, "There's a woman out there who, really wants to keep us together." And then, but 5 minutes later, we meet this mysterious woman.
Right. I want, before we get to any of that, though, very important scene. Probably the most important scene of the entire episode. It is the crux of the episode, was him in the alleyway. And there's so much we can talk about with this, but I wanted to point two things out right away. The first, the best David Tennant moment that has come from Capaldi. When as he's talking, he goes, "Oh," like he gets it, just like Tennant would. Oh, that's good. Loved that. Followed up immediately by a Matt Smith line. I saw. What did I see? I saw. What did I see? Hitting himself in the head, which was a Smith line from 11th Hour. But the other thing, the second most important thing, the actor who played the bum was Elizabeth Sladen's husband.
Oh yeah, I read that.
And I just want to absolutely love Moffat. Thank you. It's very sweet, and I miss her very much. I miss Sarah Jane Smith. Yeah, and that was nice.
And especially with the reference to the scarf, he made a reference to a scarf.
That was cute.
And he was like, "No, I'm past that,"
That looks stupid.
Yeah, that was good. I liked his because it was like he was testing out. It was after he realized he was Scottish. He was like, right. "Oh, I'm Scottish. Oh." He's like testing it out.
That scene was great. Him trying to find himself. He does all this action and adventure, and he gets to this moment, and he's still in the middle of something, and that's when he decides to take the time and look at himself and say, "Who is this person?" He does the drop in, which we'll probably hear more of later, but he does the drop in of where did this face come from?
Yeah.
It's not important who these other people were. It's not important that it was Lucius, or it's not important that it was the guy from Torchwood. What's important is that face existed, and he's aware of it in his subconscious somewhere. He knew who these people were and what they meant to the universe. And he's chosen that face because that face represents something. You see, he even says it. He's, what could this face? I'm telling myself something. Why can't I just tell me? Why does this face have to say it? Who was Lucius? Who was Lucius Petrus Dextrus? What the hell his name was? But who was he? But he was a father figure. He was an older man and a father figure who the Doctor gave mercy to, and who from that, he ran his house. He ran his household a certain way. It's a father, and I think that's what he's trying to tell himself is, I have to be someone who can, like a father, I can be in charge of, I can be in control of, I can nurture and grow and help people to grow. So
yeah, well, there's an interesting sort of idea that came out about the faces in this episode, and the idea is, and it was kind of referenced by Madame Vastra and kind of hinted at a little bit, is he chooses the face for a reason, like what he needs. And I guess for the longest time, it was probably after the War Doctor, he was young, so he would be accepted. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because that's what she said. Matt Smith was young, and so was Tennant, and now he's old again. And this was the whole idea of the veil is lifted. Now we're seeing him as almost how he really is, being that old. And even he himself, he's like, why did I choose this face? He's asking himself. And one line I really liked is, it's covered in lines. Who frowned to me that face, or whatever?
Yeah. Oh, that's such a beautiful line.
Yeah. And so it's an interesting thought to think, well, what's it, he turned to Tennant. He needed to be young and chipper and
romantic and
sexy. The face is determined by what the Doctor needs at the time. I think that's a really interesting point. That kind of ties in with what we were talking about a while ago with how the Doctor changes his personality by the end of his regeneration. Then he changes into a new person, and that new person is based on whatever was fulfilled in the last regeneration, whatever.
And we've talked at length, actually, on our podcast about those who want to go back and listen. We've talked in length about how we've seen the Doctor's face before. Obviously, they hired actors to come play the Doctor after him showing up in the show. And I like to think that that's what that whole scene in The Day of the Doctor was about with Tom Baker. That wasn't the Doctor. The curator is just the face that his face was based off of. That whole conversation could easily be interpreted as the Doctor is talking to the man who the face for the Doctor is based off of. Maybe the curator even knows the Doctor because of that at some point in time the Doctor went to him and revisited him and all the old favorite faces and said, I was you once. And I think that's maybe what they're trying to get at with Capaldi, is that his face was chosen for him by himself and based on someone he had seen before. So maybe that's the thing, is that he picks faces that exist in the universe that he feels are necessary for what. The Tennant had to be young. So did Eccleston. Eccleston was young, but he had a different accent. He was a little schlubby. Like, his face isn't pretty. It's what it is. It's big ears, kind of goofy, and that helps him get in and out of situations.
Yeah. He had to be tough and guarded.
Yeah, it was, very much so. And Tennant was young and handsome and pretty and sexy, and this is what he is. And then Matt Smith was so young-looking. You get that in that conversation that he has with Claire at the very end, which we'll get to in a second, where he says, God, please, don't let me be old. Well, that's because he had to be young again. He wanted to continue to be young because he was old. And he wanted people to underestimate him. He wanted people to, I don't know, to see him and not realize him and therefore love him for it.
Yeah, it's really interesting because now he looks old, so now he's not even sure why himself. And it has to do with, his true self. There was this whole thing with Madame Vastra and the veil. The veil is lifted. Now we're seeing him for what he is. He's not, pretending to be young.
Right.
And she has that line of, who do you think, why do you think he looked young? Who do you think that was for?
It was for everyone else, yeah.
It was for everyone
flirting
else.
With the universe.
Right.
That scene is very important, and we'll come back to that, I'm sure, throughout every podcast, just kind of referring back to all the conversation he has there about who he is and what he's becoming. We'll definitely return when they talk more about the face. But, okay, so
let's move on to the restaurant scene.
Yeah.
I like to call them the Country Bear Jamboree people in there. They just, it was kind of funny once you started watching it, and then it got super creepy.
If anyone else out there remembers, I certainly do Showbiz Pizza, which was like an old a Chuck E. Cheese before Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah,
and it had an animatronic bear band that I can only imagine is what every animatronic bear band is referencing whenever they're an animatronic bear band. But it was creepy. They were these fake robots. I hated it. I absolutely hated when I would go there. That was my least favorite part, is they'd bring us into this theater, and there was this animatronic band, and I was just like, oh my god, these things are going to kill us.
The worst is when the curtains closed, and the show was over, but you would peek behind the curtain, and they just stood there with these lifeless eyes.
I never looked behind the curtain. I was too afraid.
You just knew at any moment they were going to turn and look at you like, hey, what are you doing?
They should have.
It was creepy.
Something caught my eye when they first walked into the restaurant, and you saw it again when the police got there. The two giant blue pillars standing next to it. They both just so out of place for London. Those blue pillars.
I didn't really notice.
Architecturally, I've never. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe British people, if you're listening to this, please send us emails. voicesofthevortex@gmail.com. Let us. Voices from the Vortex gmail.com. Let us know. But they just looked really out of place.
Era British person, write us a letter.
Yeah, right. And they're
put it in the post.
Here's the thing. Damn if they don't kind of look like something the TARDIS transformed into once before.
Yeah.
Just saying. Okay.
Well, we come to find out later that these are this is the return of the clockwork droids.
Yeah, it was.
From The Girl in the Fireplace, which I thought was an interesting choice, an interesting villain to bring back. I never would have picked them to bring back.
Well, but they weren't the Madame de Pompadour ones. They were another ship.
Yeah. It was basically the same villain, but it was a sister ship. And these were more Victorian lantern droids. If you notice, there was some of them, they had a little fire.
But that was because of where they were at. According to the conversations I picked up, these things had been on Earth for a while. That they crash landed on Earth and back in the dinosaurs, the prehistoric era, and that's why they knew what dinosaurs, but how much retina they could use from a dinosaurs, because they had been there for millions of years, constantly rebuilding themselves. So at this point in time, there wouldn't even have been pieces of them left that they would have been on that ship. They wouldn't have been clockwork droids. They would have been whatever era they were rebuilding themselves, which would, at that point in time, be lanterns in their skull.
Yeah. I will say, this is my one complaint with this episode, was the basic, the basic monster plot. I mean, it was okay, but it was kind of... And this always happens with the Regeneration episodes. I was kind of more just excited to see him in action and see him talk to Clara and all the new stuff with Capaldi, that I was really not interested in the droids and their whole thing. And this goes to the same with the Autons, and with Eccleston in the beginning, and even with the Sycorax with Tennant. I wasn't really interested in that. 11th Hour is the only one where
you kind of want to know more about the villains.
Yeah, I want to know. Well, that's because Prisoner Zero is so mysterious at the end there, but also that it was just really interesting to me. But this one, yeah, that's my only thing. Is this clockwork droids and the... Okay.
I like the villain, but once again, this is becoming a theme with Moffat. Once again, there's no actual monster. The clockwork droids, they're just doing what they're doing, Yeah, it's scary. They're kidnapping people and stealing their stuff, their parts, and they kind of try to get the Doctor, kind of.
They light him on fire.
Right. But it's like the Whispermen. The Whispermen were scary, and, the Great Intelligence is scary, but what was he really doing in the name of the Doctor? He was just trying to get to Trenzalore to open the TARDIS. There was no real monster. There was no conflict. Or the Rings of Akaten is another really great one. The monster at the end is the giant star. It's not really the grandfather. It's not really the things that are hunting down the little girl. They look scary. They don't really do anything. They're not monsters. I was more terrified of the Slitheen or of the Zorbatron, Zorbatrix, than I was with any of these.
Good old Zorby.
Absorba dude.
Absorba dude.
Absorba dude. He's had a little too much hippie in his diet. I'm just saying, I'm not fair. It's I got you on that one. I'm not. They weren't scary. Like, at no point in time did I worry. Well, I kind of worried a little, but at no point in time did I worry that they were ever going to do anything to the Doctor and Clara. I was just like, they're just there to push the plot along. And I love Moffat to death, and these stories are great, but give me a damn monster and don't make it the Daleks. Give me something.
Well, that's one of the things about this too is there was no. Usually, there's like a person who's there who's helping them. In this case, it was the Paternoster gang, but of course, none of them are going to die. But usually, there's like somebody who's there and they're helping them, and maybe they end up being killed by the monster or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there was nobody like that, so we knew Clara wasn't going to die, and we knew the Doctor wasn't going to die. So there was no. Well,
you knew the Paternoster gang aren't going to die. They've been.
Yeah, so there's no real danger. You knew they were going to get out of it in the end. But that's not to say it wasn't creepy. I gotta say the hot air skin balloon was probably the
really
creep. Give me the giblies.
The giblies. I was more creeped out by the automatons eating. And then
the Country Bear Jamboree.
The Country Bear Jamboree, they scared me the way Showbiz always scared me.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, I think I've kind of gotten used to the idea of giant skin hot air balloon. Like when they said, "How's it going to fly?" And he goes, "Well, it's made of you," and then he deploys a balloon. I was just like, "Oh yeah, skin balloon. That's what I would do too." This is Doctor Who. Like, it didn't surprise me. It's just Doctor Who does skin balloon. Okay.
It's like, yeah, skin balloon. What's new?
I was more afraid, like, they were standing in a circle, and that circle had, like, steam coming out on the floor, and I was like, oh my god, is he going to burn them alive? Are they physically going to become the engine? Like, I was more worried than that, and then he was like, skin balloon. I'm like, oh, yeah, no, naturally, that's plan B. You know what plan C is? Plan C is, like, the bones of all the crushed skulls and all the bone pieces are going to, like, form a giant automaton that will pick it up and walk through downtown London. Like, bone marrow Tron.
Transformers.
And you're just like, oh. It was going to turn into a giant dinosaur. I was waiting for a dinosaur skeleton to show up and try to eat something, because that would have been normal. Skin balloon normal.
Doctor Who, man.
It's Doctor Who. You just come to believe it.
No surprises anymore.
I loved deep breath.
That part was kind of creepy as well.
How many of you out there held your breath? How many? Come on, hands up now.
I may have done it subconsciously.
As soon as she took a deep breath, I took one too. And then as soon as I did and I started holding it, I realized, oh crap, this is going to kill me. Because, like, I knew they were going to play this, but she just kept going. And when she finally, I had let out my breath far earlier than that, but when she finally let out her breath, and I was like, oh my god, that creeped me out. That scared me. I am terrified of asphyxiation, of drowning, or being buried alive or something. And, like, the idea that she would have to hold her breath to get out, that creeped me out.
Yeah,
that I wasn't expecting.
And I love that scene though right after that where she's being interrogated by the robot, and the whole part with her holding her hand back and saying, if I know the Doctor, he's got my back. He's going to be right there. Please let me be right. Please let me be right. I was holding my breath there. I was like, oh, God, please, please let the Doctor be right there. And thank God.
I didn't know if he was going to do it. I honestly didn't know where they were going.
I was really unsure if he was going to be there. Which is a testament to this show and the way they're messing with us with this new Doctor.
So he leaves her behind, and he has this really great line where she says, she saves him. She throws him the other side of the door and gets trapped. And she says, "Give me your screwdriver." And he says, "No, I might need it." And the Doctor has never, every other story with the Doctor, he has never put a screwdriver, a psychic paper, a gadget, or a gizmo over his companion. Ever. He's even said that literally the only thing he owns or he has is the TARDIS. The only thing. And at this exact moment, he gives her this line, and it was right then I realized that this Doctor is so much older than Matt Smith, and so much older than David Tennant, and he is calculated, and he is cold at it. He had to be a war doctor once. He had to fight a war before, and now he has to calculate every potential outcome. He could have given her his screwdriver and said, "I'll be back for you." He didn't need it. But why didn't he? Because he thought, what if I do need it? I've got plans on top of plans, and one of them might be needing the screwdriver. And he just left her.
Yeah. I mean, that was cold. I was like, okay, so he just leaves her there. And then when she holds her hand out, is like, is he coming back?
Yeah.
I was waiting for her to just put her hand back down and go and start crying or something. You know what I mean? That's what I was expecting. Thankfully, he shows up. He's been wearing a skin mask the whole time.
Well, you see him. She loses her breath right in front of him.
Yeah, he picks her up. He's the one who picks her up.
And brings her in. He was holding his breath the whole time.
Into the room. Which is a great touch if you go back and watch it again, yeah.
On second viewing, I was like, oh my god, it's him.
Yeah, because you know which one he is.
Right. I
missed a couple of parts before this, though, that I thought were really funny.
Yeah.
And actually kind of interesting. One was when they have the sonic screwdriver is on the floor, and Claire's trying to get it. Did you catch what he said? He said, "It's times like this I miss Amy."
Yes, I did.
He says, "Who?" And he says, "Never mind." And this was a reference to her long legs, trying to pick up the screwdriver from the floor.
I loved. She threw it at him, and it hit him in the nuts.
Yeah.
Again. Wah wah wah.
Wah, wah. There was some said there was no bonk. Bonk. And then the line right after that was good too, where she says, he goes, "You need to make that thing voice activated," and he sort of pauses. He goes, "Oh my god, it is, isn't it?" And he goes, "I don't want to talk about it."
That was really good.
That's really good. I mean, and then you go into this really creepy, like she's holding her breath and this, and then like right after that you have Strax falling through the ceiling. I mean, it's just perfect.
Even when he doesn't say anything, his lines are perfect.
I know, yeah. This is brilliant.
So I guess honestly, the biggest thing about this Doctor, of course, is we don't know who he is. Maybe that's part of it, is either playing with it. So we get the scene with him and the half-faced man, where it opens with a very honest statement. "I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to kill you." And the two of them have this very long conversation,
which is a really interesting line for him to say. Like I've never heard him say that. Like,
well,
I may have to kill you. That's like,
I have a theory.
Crazy.
So we get to the moment where the two of them are standing at the doorway, and they both basically said, "It's against my nature." Well, the half-faced man says, "It's against my programming to kill myself," and the Doctor says, "It's against my programming, to murder," which is not true. But it is. He doesn't want to. Right. And then they get to a point where the Doctor says, "One of us is lying. We both know who it is." And then the next time you see them, the half-faced man has somehow managed to not be in that room anymore, and clearly his body has been skewered as it has fallen to the ground. I distinctively, at that exact moment, went back to David Tennant, talking about the Time War, talking to Wilf and the time, the End of Time, Part 2, where he says, "And I got clever. I convinced others to take their lives for me." And the reason I go back to that is because what did he say at the very beginning of that conversation to the half-faced man? He says, "I have this feeling that I'm going to have to kill you." And he's very cold about it. He's very, very calm about it. Like, he doesn't initiate. He doesn't fight this thing. I think the whole point of that conversation he has with that robot is to get the robot to commit suicide. I think that was his plan. I think that's exactly what happens. I think he managed to convince this thing to kill itself for him. He's not a murderer, but he's a murderer.
Which is almost creepier than...
A lot creepier.
Just pushing him out the door.
Right?
Yeah.
I think that's exactly what he did. I think he built the story so the robot would realize that he had no point anymore in living. And it knew it had to commit suicide.
And that, I feel like that was his moment right there.
Yeah.
You know, where and right after that, you know, it pans up to him and he's looking down and then he looks right at the camera.
Right. The little knowing
that's
wink.
That's his I'm the doctor moment. You know, that's his... I was waiting for one of those, and I think that was the one.
Yeah.
You know, you have that one with Matt Smith where he's like, "I'm the doctor," basically, run. I mean, that's the thing, and you're like, "Oh, that's him. That's it."
Yep.
And this was it right there when he was down, it panned back up to him. He looked up. I was like, "Okay, that's okay." Yeah.
Well, and it's good. It was. That's a very good moment.
This is the kind of doctor he's going to be.
This doctor is going to have absolutely. You're not going to know what he's doing. You're not going to know what he's doing in the background.
And I don't think they're ever going to answer this question. I don't think they're ever going to answer, did he push him or did he talk him into jumping out? They don't need to.
I will say this. This doctor is building up like the last season of Sylvester McCoy. And they've said they wanted to do that particular doctor. Where Sylvester McCoy, just adventure after adventure, it was like he was doing all this stuff behind the scenes. In between every single story, he must have been off doing stuff while Ace was sleeping. Because, like, then you'd have, oh, and now we're landing here, and oh, look, Ace, we're somehow in your hometown, but 80 years before you were born, and there are vampires here. Bah, ha, ha, ha. I guess I'm just manipulating things, and... You know, oh, Davros, you and your Daleks have shown up again. It's a good thing I didn't leave like a super weapon for you to find. I did. Oh, it blew you up. My bad. Like, he was just manipulative and mean.
Yeah.
And I think that's the kind of doctor we're going to have.
Yeah.
Which is good, but is also... that's the part that's scary, because all of a sudden we have to ask ourselves, you know... Do we want to trust this man? Can we put our lives in his hands? Even when it was Eccleston, you never had any doubt that Rose would survive. When it was Tennant, even though he lost people, you never had any doubt in your mind that he would do everything he could to save them. With Matt Smith, you were always a little worried about how things were going to turn out until you got to this season 7, how you realized that everything was going to be fine. That River was going to be fine, and Amy was going to be fine, and Rory was going to be fine. Even Clara would end up being fine. Not anymore. There's no guarantee.
I'm not too sure. Anybody who shows up now, I mean, Danny Pink, I'm worried about him. I haven't even met him yet.
Haven't even met the man, and I'm worried about him.
I liked the reference to the clockwork droids. But what I loved even more was that he never remembered where they were from.
Right.
He kept saying, "It rings a bell."
Nope,
and then when he gets to the end, he's like, "Nope, I still don't know what it is." Oh well, you know. I thought that was great.
Well, and you know, he's so old. All that stuff. It was like 1,000 years ago for him. How is he going to remember that one particular adventure out of a bazillion?
Yeah, it was so long ago. It seems new for us, but I mean, it was so long ago.
I would like to say that we have talked in great length about this episode here, and some of the best scenes. We have skipped over a lot. All of this information, and there's still 2 really great important scenes to talk about.
Yes.
And the first is the phone call.
Oh. Well, wait, hold on. Before we get to those two scenes,
Oh God. Okay.
there's something very important we forgot. Two things. The first, the TARDIS is updated, and we kind of talked about this on our last episode podcast. There's some bookshelves. There's a little more of an orangey glow in the room, and chalkboards and things. He's got a chair.
Mm-hmm.
He's an old man. He needs to sit down for a little bit
and ponder.
Yes, with a pipe and some bubbles. But the other thing is the titles. They changed the titles and the theme.
Oh,
and we totally forgot.
How good are those titles? How wonderful is
that
song?
So we all most of us should know this but if you don't, these are inspired by a fan video, which the fan video was brilliant, and they just made it even better.
The titles are amazing, and you're right, they come directly from a fan. And this is a true testament to how Stephen Moffat has gone out of his way to ensure that this show is really made by fans for fans. I don't care what you think about his writing. I don't care what you think about his storytelling. Stephen Moffat is a dyed-in-the-wool Doctor Who fan who was trying to bring everything he loves about the show to it. And he saw those titles, and I can honestly say that was one of two titles that we saw that were just phenomenal.
Yeah.
And one of them, the TARDIS flying through Gallifrey, which would have been too much. But this, I'm glad he saw that and picked that, because as much as I love the Vortex idea that we've seen constantly, that's not just what Doctor Who's about. It's time travel. And yes, it's hit over the head with a mallet metaphor where you see a clock and clock gears, but no one's ever done it before. Come on. Looks
it's
good.
Great. You got the clock gears, you got the sort of the clock with the Roman numerals, and then it goes into space. So it's time and space. And you have this space, and I love the blue squiggly, wispy lines. I loved those. That was
so cool.
And it was just great.
Even the eyes in the opening, the face.
And we still get the
great.
face. And the theme was different too.
Yes, it was.
And I loved it. It was really weird. I didn't really like it on first. Like when I was watching the episode the first time, I was like, oh, that was kind of weird. And I've been watching it again and again, and it gets better and better every time.
It does.
And the theme is, and we've been watching these Classic Who episodes. The theme is so Classic Who now.
Yes.
We said that about the last one. It wasn't at all. Like this one is the most Classic Who the theme has ever been, and it's great. It's very, creepy, spooky.
Yeah.
The instruments
it's
used.
Tinny.
Great.
It has a little tinny to it. It's got these chimes or these bells or this tinny sound to it in the background that just
some laser beam
right
sounds too. It's like pew pew.
Oh, it's got pew pews.
It does have pew pews.
Pew pew. So cool. I love this theme. I absolutely do. And there's a couple of moments where you hear Murray Gold is starting to lay the seeds for the new Doctor theme, for the I Am the Doctor moments. And it's like when he opens the window and he says, "Me," going out a window instead of door. Boring.
I did hear some kind of thing, and I was thinking, is this going to be, the Doctor?
It's the best contender so far.
And then also I was also wondering, like, what's his catchphrase going to be? And I saw something on Tumblr that his catchphrase might be question. What is something's up? Because he said that a lot in this episode.
Or that's not the question.
Yeah, so his catchphrase might be question, or something.
So listen. I don't know how many times they can break my heart, but clearly more than once.
I was really
not
shocked.
Enough? Was it not enough?
I knew the phone call was coming.
Amy, he saw Amelia before he regenerated. I mean, Jesus, you're really trying to kill me. That was putting a gun to my face and pulling the trigger. But then the phone call was like, now whatever's left of your body, we're gonna let a donkey hump. Like, it was just, I cried so hard. And I knew it was coming.
I did too. I knew it was coming for months now. It was like the very first thing we ever knew about Series 8 was that they were going to do this phone call.
The sweetest, her face. And then him at the end standing there and saying, she says, "You shouldn't have listened." And he says, "I didn't. It was me. I called you." And he goes, "You just look right through me. You don't see me." And it just broke my heart.
Oh.
Right there.
Oh. I was not expecting Matt Smith to actually be there.
No.
I was expecting his voice.
Right.
but they actually showed him, which was interesting because usually once you see the Doctor regenerate, you're like, that's the last scene he gets. So it was really weird to see this.
I think they filmed it in advance, though.
But it worked, and it was really great.
Yeah.
And it was almost like a multi-Doctor episode in a way. You know what I mean? It was kind of neat.
I will say this: it explains two things, though. One, it explains why when he regenerates, when she gets into the TARDIS and sees him, that he gives her more. He doesn't really say goodbye. He gives her sort of this lesson. He kind of lectures her a little bit about life and about change. And as much as I loved it, it felt very out of place with Clara there. Him seeing Amelia was beautiful and brilliant, but Clara being there and him just going on and talking about it was like, I get that they want to give Matt Smith something else to say that I don't want to go, but something was wrong. So there was no goodbye, and that's where you get the goodbye, because for him it had just happened. He had just had the goodbye with her on the phone, and then left it, and then went downstairs, and then when he came back upstairs, there she was. And for him, he had already said goodbye, so now he was just giving her parting words. But it also explains why Capaldi spends all this time without actually talking to Clara. He doesn't really, from the get-go, he doesn't really stop and say, this is me, this is who I am, help me, please, I need you. Because he's already said it to her. And he knows she's going to hear it soon.
Yeah.
It's just interesting.
That's a really good point. I liked the lines where he said, look, Clara, I'm not your boyfriend.
Yeah.
And she says, well, I never thought you were. And he said, well, I didn't say it was all your fault.
Yeah.
That's a really great line, and it's really, really a good testament to this, the way it has been written in the past. I mean, the Doctor flirted with Clara a lot.
Yes, he did.
In the last series, and
she
no wonder she was confused, and it kind of ruined her a little bit now that she has this old Doctor to take care of. So, that was a good way to apologize there. Say, like, look.
Well, it was nice. It was such a great way to be able to establish the fact that all of a sudden he's an older man. And, like, what are you going to do? You're writing a love story, or the beginnings of one, and now all of a sudden you go in a different direction. It's such a great way to be like, hey, I'm still the same guy. You just can't look at me like this anymore. And we kind of accept it because it makes perfect sense. Yeah. He didn't love her as Matt Smith. He never did. He was flirting with her because he flirts with everybody, because he has to be accepted. But he's done being accepted. He's ready to just be himself.
Yeah. And I mean, the hug and everything, it was really sweet. He finally.
You don't really have a choice.
You don't have a vote. I don't think you have a vote. And it just got me really excited because he was finally, he was in his outfits, and he was like normal. He wasn't right. Amnesia, crazy Alzheimer old man anymore. He was thinking clearly.
I kind of like that outfit on him, by the way, the crazy old man amnesiac. Still in his nightgown. He
wore a lot of outfits in this episode. He had first he had Eleven's outfit on, and then he had the nightgown and the old man's and the tramp's coat, and then he had on the outfit that the one robot was wearing, so it was like a suit.
Yeah.
And then he had his costume. So he had 4 outfits that he wore in this episode.
But do you see the progression? He started out in something we knew and were comfortable with that looked good on him, and then he was basically stripped down when he was a person who knew nothing. He does that whole scene. The very first thing we see is him talking about, what's a bedroom for? It's a room for when you're asleep. What do you do when you're not asleep? And that's a metaphor for the Doctor. Is, who is he? And he's wearing a nightgown. What am I doing in these clothes? It's what you wear when you're not the Doctor.
Yeah.
What do you do when you are the Doctor? Wear something else. And throughout the course of the adventure, he doesn't know who he is. He's still in shambles. So he grabs whatever he can find, which is the bum's coat and a couple other things. And then he has to infiltrate the enemy. And so now he's wearing a suit, something far more traditional for, I guess, the most recent Doctors to wear. Something a little more identifiable. But by the very end, he's gotten into. Once he's finally won, he's beaten the monster, and he's finally ready to say his final things to Clara, knowing that she's about to get a call from Smith. And so what does he do? He puts on what he's going to wear. He's finally in his environment, his TARDIS. He's the Doctor. The whole episode was building that. And that's beautiful. That's amazing writing.
Yeah, I love those little sort of almost Easter egg type things, little hints. I think that's it, except for the very end. And I believe this is going to be our through line, people. The Promised Land and Heaven and whoever the freaking Queen of the Nethersphere is.
Okay, so we this actress we know is in the final episode this season. Her character's name is the Gatekeeper of the Nethersphere. That's all been announced. That's been given to us.
Yes.
But just like they did with Clara Oswald, who showed up in Asylum of the Daleks, this woman has shown up again. Here she is, in the first episode of a season when we think she's supposed to be at the very end. Where is this place? How did this guy survive? Is this actually heaven? Is she a time traveler? Is she a Time Lord? Is she a villain?
I'm hoping she's a Time Lord.
I know. Okay, I'm going to put my theory out there for you. This is it. Ready?
Okay,
This is what I want it to be. She is a time lady. She's a Time Lord of some sort, and that Promised Land is on Gallifrey. And the Gallifreyans, throughout the course of the entire show, of this whole season, you are going to see all the monsters will die and be taken there because they are building an army of monsters to battle everything in the universe.
That sounds awesome.
Best idea ever. This is what I want.
I have no idea what's going on.
I know it does.
There's a lot of series out there that I don't agree with. I don't think this is anybody we know. You know what I mean?
No, it's not. It's not River Song. Get that out of your heads.
It's not the Master.
It's not the Master. It's not the Ranny. Look, if it was going to be the Ranny, we would have actually seen the Ranny by now. It's not the Ranny, people. Get it out of your heads. It's not Omega. He's dead. Get it out of your heads. It's not Rassilon. Timothy Dalton is doing other things. Okay,
So,
this is something.
I think this is a new character. I mean, I don't think they would. Stephen Moffat doesn't make a habit of having somebody be a character and then they're like, no, actually, I'm this person.
Yeah.
He will say, somebody may be coming back, and then we won't know until they show up, and then we know who it is. That's usually the way that works.
Russell T Davies was the one that hid the Master from us, people.
Yes.
Nobody else. Saxon was the Master. We were all tricked. I get it. But
Yana,
come on.
he was the Master.
Yana was the Master.
Right.
Moffat's never done that to us.
No.
Except for who's in the suit. The astronaut suit. And he left so many breadcrumbs right to that answer.
Oh, yeah, that was... Yeah. Hansel and Gretel had no problem finding that answer. That was pretty easy. I thought, anyway.
You calling River Song a witch? Zing!
Oh, hey. Hello, sweeties.
Hello, sweeties.
This is my sweet house.
Not on this podcast, but someday I'm going to go over all the things that are wrong with Season 6 of Doctor Who. It is my favorite season of the New Who, and there are plot holes so ginormous, you could literally fly the TARDIS through them. We're not going to get into it today because we got other things.
We've already done it. Go back and see. Yeah, go listen to our Season 6 podcast. We've talked a lot.
I'm just going to say this.
Totally messed up.
I'm just going to say this. Time-traveling aliens from the future who cannot be remembered or seen until you're physically looking at them couldn't just walk up to the Doctor and shoot him in the head with a gun? No, you have to create a complicated plot by which you're going to somehow take the Doctor's best friend when she's pregnant and breed an assassin who's going to be raised literally right next door to the Doctor in time periods which you know the Doctor's at, just so you can put her in a suit in Lake Silencio to kill him when you have like a bazillion other chances to just blow him out of the stars. You create doppelgangers using 51st century technology to infiltrate his TARDIS to pretend to be his companions. He has no clue who they are or that they're even there. One of them couldn't have just shot him. No. Complicated, ridiculous, over-the-top plot where you have to send your people back to the beginning of mankind to dig tunnels to guide mankind to the space age to build a suit, which Riversong just ripped out of as a kid anyway, because she couldn't have done that later on in the freaking astronaut suit when she was in the lake like she did as a little baby girl. No. It's the most... the Master has nothing on how complicated these plots are, and the Master's complicated plots are ridiculous.
I thought you weren't going to talk about it.
I'm not. That is the bare minimum of my problems with everything with the Trenzalore silence story. Like,
the least you could say. That's the least.
They're priests, and they're going to kill him? You couldn't have found a better place and time to go back and shoot him? Anyway. You have his entire history on file. You have literally an army of assassins living on the Earth who cannot be seen for human history. What, he's not going to show up at some point in time? Like he wasn't there at caveman time? What, you couldn't have gone back and shot Hartnell in the face? He's picking up a rock about to kill another stupid caveman, and all of a sudden he looks up and he goes, "Why, you're an odd-looking gentleman indeed." Bam! Done. No more show. Never reaches Trenzalore. Susan goes, "I'm stuck in the past." And Ian and Barbara die of heart attacks. The end.
Well, no, deep breath.
Sorry.
So it was good, and I'm really excited for next week, which brings us to
the official...
Oh my god, that promo!
Oh my god, that promo!
Oh my god, it's been so long since we've done one of these. But Jesus. Okay, so I really have no idea what this is. I know there's Daleks in it, but that's about all I gathered from this promo.
From this promo, you get nothing.
No, you get battles and like, oh no, they're over there, pew pew, look out.
Look out, here they come, pew pew pew.
Yeah, that's about all you get.
But we don't just have that to geek out about it a little bit. We have synopses for pretty much every episode this season.
Yes, so this is a very special, oh my god, that promo.
Oh my god, that promo.
We're not going to talk about it too much because we don't want to spend too much time on them, but we're going to sort of tease the synopses for all the rest of the season.
We're going to read through them, my friends,
yes. And
I'm telling you right now, we couldn't make this stuff up.
No, and some of the best titles I think I've ever heard.
Right.
Yeah.
So starting with the next episode, episode 2, Into the Dalek. A Dalek fleet surrounds a lone rebel ship, and only the Doctor can help them now. With the Doctor facing his greatest enemy, he needs Clara by his side. Confronted with a decision that could change the Daleks forever, he is forced to examine his conscience. Will he find the answer to the question, am I a good man?
So, I mean, really, I'm excited the Daleks are coming back so soon. I'm excited to see Peter Capaldi go up against them. And this sounds like something different with the Daleks. You know what I mean?
Right?
It sounds like something different. Something where they're
and they've been teasing this "Am I a good man" thing.
I feel like he didn't really fight them in Asylum of the Daleks. He was just like, oh, look out, there's some Daleks. You know what I mean? Don't run into that Dalek,
more Daleks.
Might wake up.
What's in that room? Daleks? Who killed all the Daleks? The Dalek killer?
Yeah. All right, episode 3, Robot of Sherwood. In a sun-dappled Sherwood forest, the Doctor discovers an evil plan from beyond the stars and strikes up an unlikely alliance with Robin Hood. With all of Nottingham at stake, the Doctor must decide who is real and who is fake. Can impossible heroes really exist?
I love a good period piece with fictional heroes.
Oh yeah, I think it's gonna ask the question like, is Robin Hood real? Like, what? It's gonna be like, no, wait a minute, Robin Hood. I can just see it now, Clara. She's like, wait a minute, Doctor, you're telling me that
There's a tiny little thing that came out a little bit ago, just a couple of weeks ago, where they were talking about a little snippet of conversation that I guess was overheard during filming as someone was recording, and taking pictures. But it's the Doctor and Robin Hood, where Robin Hood says, "I'm Robin Hood," and the Doctor says, "No, you're not." And he says, "No, really, I'm Robin Hood." He says, "Absolutely not. That's preposterous. You're fictional. You're not Robin Hood." And he says, "No, but I'm Robin Hood." It's very who's on first. I'm excited for that. Episode number 4, Listen, or as what we like to call, Episode in a Bottle. What scares the grand old man of time? What horrors lurk under his bed? Ghosts of the past and future crowd into the lives of the Doctor and Clara, a terrified caretaker in a children's home, the last man standing in the universe, and a little boy who doesn't want to join the army. Everything that's been said about this has been that it's the Doctor's bored. Like, he's got nothing to do, so he's trying to invent things to do, and that's when his psychosis kind of catches up with him. What does he do when he's bored? How does he find time how does he find things to stop and to kill and to battle? And this is going to answer those questions.
All right, episode 5, Time Heist. The Bank of Terrabraxos is the deadliest bank in the cosmos. Only a fool or genius would attempt to rob it. Fortunately for the Doctor, he's both. But nothing even the Doctor has encountered can prepare them for the Teller, a creature of terrifying power that can detect guilt.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah. So this is where Miss Delphox.
Keeley? Oh, Fox.
No, wait, what's it? No. Miss
Yeah.
something.
I thought it was
the
Keeley.
banker that we had been announced, months ago.
Yes.
Or she'll come into play, I'm assuming.
Let's see. So, episode 6, The Caretaker. Clara has it all under control. Her life at school, her life in space, her new boyfriend, and her mad old Time Lord. Everything is humming along just fine, so long as everybody never actually meets. And then, one morning just before assembly, Coal Hill welcomes a new relief caretaker with a Scottish accent. Were we not just talking about the idea that since Ian and Barbara run the school, that he might get picked to come work at the school?
Just maybe.
Waka waka.
We're hoping for a William Russell cameo. Come on, people.
Just give us this.
Yes, please. Okay, number 7. Probably the best title I've ever heard. Kill the Moon.
That's as great as Let's Kill Hitler.
It's so good. All right, in the near future, the Doctor and Clara arrive on a decrepit shuttle, making a suicide mission to the moon. Crashing on the lunar surface, they find a mining base full of eviscerated corpses, spider-like creatures scuttling about in the dark, and a terrible dilemma.
I don't like spiders. Not a fan.
I have a feeling that one will be creepy.
Maybe finally we're going to get back to... They've said this episode is supposed to be a return to a previous adventure. Maybe this is going back to the call he answered at the end of Season 5. Episode 8, Mummy on the Orient Express. Aboard the most beautiful train in history, speeding among the stars of the future, a legend is stalking passengers. Once you see the mummy, you have 66 seconds to live. Clara sees the Doctor at his most deadliest and most ruthless, and finally, she realizes she's made the right decision, because this is their last adventure. It's time to say goodbye to the Time Lord.
Oh, no. Not Clara. Well, apparently not, because episode 9, Flatline. Separated from the Doctor, Clara discovers a new menace from another dimension. But how do you hide when even the walls are no protection?
Dun dun dun. Well, I guess maybe that's her last
the tiny
adventure.
TARDIS that we've seen pictures of. So I'm excited for that. That should be hilarious.
Maybe that one is her last adventure. It couldn't possibly be episode 10, In the Forest of the Night. One morning in London, and every city and town in the world, the human race wakes up to the most surprising invasion yet. The trees have moved back in. Everywhere, in every land, a forest has grown overnight and taken back the earth.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
This sounds kind of like a, the Power of Three, you know?
Yeah.
It's going to be like kind of one of the first episodes where it's like something's happening on Earth and, the Doctor, it's like happening everywhere and everyone knows about it. going to be one of those, I think.
Except he probably isn't going to, like, mow the lawn or paint the fence or
No.
play football.
Probably not. Or play Wii. Wii
Right.
tennis. All right. Then we have the two-part finale, Dark Water and Death in Heaven. What are the titles?
Dun, dun. Interesting. Death in Heaven.
Death in Heaven. Stephen Moffat says, in the mysterious world of the Nethersphere, plans have been drawn. Old friends and old enemies maneuver around the Doctor, and an impossible choice is looming over him.
So potentially someone building an army of monsters.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Maybe. These are only theories, folks.
Only theories. We know nothing.
We know nothing.
Except we're in a TARDIS, so we could just travel to the future and see it.
Yeah.
We don't abuse our power like that.
But next week we shall know more. Join us next week.
Into the Dalek.
Into the Dalek.
Guys,
Sounds
thanks
really
for joining
interesting.
us. What?
It sounds really interesting.
It's the one place I've always wanted to go. In a Dalek.
Well, you guys, that's it for this Voices from the Vortex review.
Episode 8.1, Deep Breath.
We hope you enjoyed it. Next week we shall have our coverage of Into the Dalek and
the brand new podcast, the monthly Voices from the Vortex. New format, new rules.
yes, stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Taylor, I don't know about you, but I am wearing a bit thin.
Me too, old pal, me too. Remember, everyone out there, take good care of yourselves, and maybe you too can have an enviable spleen.
Just remember, I don't like the color of the kidneys, so whatever
Yes.
we gotta do.
But your spleen is enviable.
Enviable.
All right, everybody.
Deep breath.
No, I can't do it.
Voices from the Vortex is written, edited by, and starring Taylor Davidson and Matthew Whitecamp.
With Danielle Davidson as the sexy voice of the TARDIS.
Theme music composed by Brian Wurst.
Visit our website, www.broadcastgallifrey.com.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel for an enhanced podcast experience.
Follow us on Twitter, @Vortex Podcast.
Like us on Facebook.
Follow us on Tumblr and Google+.
Subscribe to us on iTunes. And if you like what you've heard, leave a review.
Ask us a fan question through any of these media, and we'll answer it on the podcast.
Thanks for listening, and stay tuned to the Vortex.
End of transmission.